Hi, this is Victoria Meyer. Welcome back to the Chemical Show, where chemicals means business. Today, I am speaking with Alina Green from the WIKA Group. She's a market segment specialist and she helps clients and companies across the industry optimize their processes and implement strategies to achieve their business plans. And doing it in a way, and in fact, this is an interesting angle from what we often talk about, bringing in automation, instrumentation, and really tying it into the core operations of chemical companies and energy companies. So that's a little bit of what we're going to be talking about today. Really hope you enjoyed this conversation. Alina, welcome to the Chemical Show.
Thank you. Thank you, Victoria. I'm a big fan of your show, so I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. Glad to hear that. Well, let's just start with your origin story. How did you get interested in engineering and then instrumentation and valves and ultimately energy and chemicals? You've had quite a lot of experience and really technical in market related experience.
I think with that, I'll have to start earlier in my life. I grew up in Romania, in post-communist Romania, and that's where I went to school. I grew up as an only child in a family where both my parents were agricultural engineers. We had a little bit of land, and I spent most of my summers helping out at the farm because we used to go to a farmer's market quite a bit. And you're gonna ask, why is this relevant to what we're talking about? But I'm getting there. So that kind of helped me. It did two things for me. One, I was actually pretty good when during COVID, when everybody was starting their own vegetable gardens.
Yeah.
Actually got the envy of my friends and neighbors. I was pretty good at that, but also kind of helped me be comfortable with tough environments. Working
Mm.
outside and just be able to do things with my hands. My parents also put a big focus on schooling, so schooling was important. There was absolutely no way I wasn't going to go to college. But kind of going to the second thing that did for me when after I graduated from chemical engineering, I got an opportunity with Schlumberger to work in a field, to work on oil rigs, which is one of those things that you think about. Oh, it's kind of cool, but when you're there, it's cold and it's wet, and you're outside for 12-hour shifts, and
And you're
you're
kind of a little bit isolated.
Yep, yep. That wasn't a challenge that I was afraid of. I thought
Yeah.
I could do it, and it provided me with the opportunity to travel and meet people from all over the world, and that kind of formed me in a way of being able to take challenges.
Mm.
You had in your show a few weeks ago, you had the BASF CEO in your show,
Yeah.
and he said something that it stuck with me, and I really like that, and I think that's what I apply in my career. Um, Always take a job that you're able to grow into, and I've done that with every role that I've taken throughout my career.
Yeah.
So worked in the field for a couple years, then moved to Houston. Worked in the lab. I was the lab manager. I did some project management before moving to WIKA in the instrumentation manufacturing work. So everything was kind of a, hey, there's a new challenge. Can I do it? I'm not sure. Let's try.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that's right. And by the way, I grew up on a farm myself. So I understand how that ties into, not being afraid of hard work. It kind of gives you this whole mechanical sense, which ties very well into engineering. And then there's a whole lot to be said with seeing the fruits of your labors, right? Which also, I think, links very well to engineering into what you do today. So that's really cool. When did you move from Romania to the US?
2012.
Okay,
Yeah, so it was an intercompany transfer here in Houston.
awesome. That's really cool. So tell us a little bit about the WIKA group, because people may not be fully familiar.
So WIKA has been in business for over 75 years.
Wow.
It's still a family-owned company. third generation. The current owners, his grandfather started the company as a gauge company. So he put together a company that they were very good at selecting different materials and welding techniques. So that's kind of how the company grew. It's a German company. It was founded in the west of Germany, where that after World War II that offered a prosper environment for growing a business. The company was handed over to the original owner's son, which actually lost his life in a tragic accident. I don't know the exact details to share, but he was shot by one of his friends,
Wow.
and his wife was left with the business in an environment where, like you and I, where a male dominated environment, and she absolutely exploded, growing the business internationally, yeah, and opening several subsidiaries. WIKA still has, and she was also very focused on employees' well-being. She started a scholarship, and WIKA still has a Ursula Vegan Scholarship Fund that the employees can tap into for their dependents.
That's nice. So, so I know a big part of your role at WICA is identifying market trends and opportunities and helping connect what WICA can do with what customers can do and driving direction there. What are the key industry trends influencing your business and your customers today?
My main focus is on the downstream market. There are several of my colleagues that focus on other markets. The way that WIKA has been funded as an instrumentation company, we have some traditional markets that we know we're strong in.
Yeah.
We're strong in industrial gases, instrumentation for industrial gases, power generation, downstream market, or upstream oil and gas, things like water, wastewater. So we know what markets we can serve, and we stay close to our customers and partners. So that basically helps us as a company know which products that we should be developing, which products we should be focusing on. What are some of the gaps in our portfolio that we should be probably investing some the R&D? In a nutshell, we know what we're good at, and we try to stay there and grow in those fields.
Yeah. That makes sense. And certainly I think you guys must be tied very closely really with this whole trend around digitization, digital transformation, certainly of manufacturing and operations, the industrial Internet of Things. Can you talk about that at all?
It kind of ties in with what I was previously discussing. So we have the traditional markets, but then from those markets, if you know your downstream market, you know that there's trends, that there's focuses on decarbonization from a perspective of carbon capture, from hydrogen. What are some of those applications that we could be supporting as a manufacturer? What are
Yeah.
some of the challenges that we can help overcome? And that's kind of where we're going with our strategy when it comes to the new trends.
Okay. So continuing to kind of expand and go deeper with these markets and opportunities.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Can you talk about any examples? I mean, I know you work closely with your business partners and your customers. Do you have an example where you've really been able to help create a transformation with the company as it relates to being able to respond to some of these trends like digitization and decarbonization?
Yeah, actually, I did a paper, a joint paper with Chevron, with the Pascagoula refinery,
Mm.
on a solution that they've implemented in their amine unit. So basically, what they were looking for was to optimize their unit. The way that amine units work in a refinery, they're utilized to clean acid gases, to capture CO2, capture H2S from the off gases.
Yeah.
So it's not really one of those units that produce money for the refinery.
But
So
but it keeps
eh,
the refinery operating.
exactly.
Yeah.
But because it's not linked directly to a revenue, they tend to be kind of put to the side
Mm.
when it comes to investments. We did work. So the way that this started, we had a younger engineer that was interested in doing an energy efficiency project on this unit. So the way this unit operates, the amine circulates and picks up the gases, and then it's being regenerated in a separate unit. That regenerator uses steam to clean up the gases, and
Yeah.
then it keeps circulating the amine. So, long story short, not to go too deep into the process, they were able to optimize the way that the amine was circulated by having more temperature visibility in the unit. This is a exothermic reaction, so it generates heat. They can see exactly where that's taking place, and they can use that data to optimize how the unit operates,
Yeah.
and can really have some significant cost savings by not utilizing as much steam into the process. So just an example of a low hanging fruit type of project where the investment is minimum, the
Mm.
below 50K. Long term, it could produce significant savings for the plant and less carbon emissions. You're generating less steam. You're not utilizing your boilers. You're not putting CO2 into the environment as much. I love this one because it's so easy, so simple, so elegant, and it could be applied in other situations.
Yeah.
Just being able to see how your unit operates and use that to optimize it, basically.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think it becomes a cost savings, energy savings, and as you point out, really a sustainability story, being able to optimize around that. What do you find is the key differentiator when you are working with customers and finding these solutions? What really differentiates it? What helps you figure out how to tailor these solutions and identify really projects and solutions that have what sounds like a pretty high return on investment?
Well, I think it's important to really know your applications in your market. It's important to understand where are the areas that could be improved.
Mm.
I think big capex projects will be there and they're great.
Yeah.
There's big investments and they make the news. These little projects won't make the news, but really understanding how you can optimize your process and what are some of the tools that are available right now. We're not needing to develop new materials. We're not needing to create new technology. What can we do from a vendor operator relationship to optimize the process? And for me personally, I attend so many conferences throughout the year
Yeah.
because I really want to understand what are some of the challenges and really understand the process very well.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, and I think, and maybe you've already touched on this, but I think these ideas of identifying the challenges and incorporating some of the tools to optimize the operations, to help digitize the operational interface is so critical. Yet it often seems the companies that are the most able to engage are the biggest companies, right? With the with the deepest pockets, right? So Chevron is a great example, but it sounds like that these solutions are actually in touch for a lot of companies of various sizes, because of course we know that something like 80% of the chemical industry is really small to mid-sized companies with smaller operations and smaller budgets. So I guess the question for me is, how do these companies utilize or access solutions such as what you're talking about with WIKA?
Yeah, I think that's even easier for smaller companies because it's such a small budget
Mm.
that they would have to allocate towards this project. It's more difficult to get a big capex project run or pass through the different levels of approval than it is. Hey, I'm having this project. This is what it's gonna do for my operation, and this is the ROI. And I think being able to have that conversation at a one-on-one level, if it's the process engineer, reliability, or whoever's concerned in improving, I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes they don't even necessarily see the big picture. Maybe that, that's an assumption, right? So I think sometimes engineers in the plant managers, et cetera, are working to solve one problem, and then they see the opportunity elsewhere, in a bigger picture way. Like, let me solve my energy problem, but oh, by the way, it also helps solve a carbon issue or decarbonize. Do you see that as well? You see it as opportunities start in one point, but they actually can help customers paint the bigger picture for that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the just like I mentioned before, I think it's a matter of having that relationship
Yeah.
and that open communication. These projects don't happen overnight. There's discussions, there's ideas that get passed around, and that's how these kind of projects
Yeah.
can be born.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of that whole close customer relationship and understanding your customers' needs.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
awesome. Um, what role do you see sustainability playing? Is that a big driver of requests and opportunities that you see with your customers today and in markets? Do you see that as a growing area of focus?
Yes, I think we're paying more attention to not just as a buzzword, but we're paying more attention to some of the projects that we could be engaging in that have those sustainability effects.
Yeah,
If it's a product that lasts longer, or if it's a project that will turn into or will turn some decarbonization benefits. I think that this discussion it's gaining more interest into the industry.
yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about leadership. So you've worked across many countries, right? So if I think about and countries and cultures, right? Romania here to the U.S., drilling rigs to chemical plants. What stands out to you in terms of effective leadership or even just leadership differences? Anything that you see that you'd say, yeah, that's really the difference maker when I cut across industries and companies and countries?
I love that question. I think regardless of what the role that I've had, I've tried to implement leadership techniques. If it was working on a rig, just taking the steps to be self-sufficient and know which resources I can tap into, working in the lab, uh, uh, knowing which projects can improve the work practices that we're having, and that's kind of how the opportunities came to me as well.
Yeah.
Um, I think we all need to implement leadership in our day-to-day life, and that's what create more opportunities
Mm.
for us in our career, in our day to day life.
So one of the things we talked about before we hit the record button was just about being, being a woman in a very technical business environment. When I think about what WIKA is doing with its instrumentation, your customers, particularly going into, well, heck, oil rigs, but then also operating plants. What have been the challenges that you see, or challenges or opportunities or experiences maybe about being a woman in a very technical market?
So, as I mentioned, I think before you hit the record button, I've been on an oil rig where I was the only woman. And
Mm,
you sometimes, depending on the culture, I think you can be a thorn in somebody's back because they have to give you separate accommodation
mm,
and all that. But I think it's what you bring to the table. It's and most of the time you can't forget you're a woman. You're a woman. You're gonna bring certain things to the table. And being authentic and being able to bring your whole self to work with your strengths and weaknesses. I think it's very important, and regardless of the job that you do. And I've had many opportunities to stand up there, and the first impression that I get is, "Oh, what is she gonna say?" But then you know what you're talking about, and you immediately gain the respect.
yeah.
And that's kind of what did it for me. Moving towards to my life. Being young is okay, but then moving towards your life and having children and having a family and all that can come with a additional set of challenges.
Yeah.
But I've kept things separated. It's important to be successful in your career. I think that the CEO of PepsiCo, she says you cannot have it all. It's impossible to have it all, but you can have the things that you want at different stages of your life. And you're going to give 110% in your work sometimes, and you're going to need some help at home.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need to put that 110% at home and take a little bit of a break at work. And that's very important, regardless of your gender.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's different phases that each of us fall in at different times in our life and different times in our career that require different levels of flexibility, different levels of, as you say, sometimes it's 110%, sometimes that 110% looks different because it's split not just at the office, but it's also split between office and home and elsewhere. So it's critical to know. I think that aspect of bringing your whole self to work, being authentic, and just being clear at what your own priorities are is critical.
Absolutely.
So, what's next for you and for WIKA? What should we be looking forward to over the coming year?
Well, I think we're all kind of waiting for the results of elections. We have a lot of projects that are on hold now. So we
Mm,
know what our strategy is. We know what we want to see moving forward. We know we're trying to develop more products that are fitted to the increase in digitalization trends from a company perspective. So we're kind of waiting to see what happens from project perspectives, but we have our goals and we know where we want to be
yeah,
as a company.
yeah. I think that's. I think that's right. I think everyone's waiting over the next month to see the outcomes, and then business will kind of accelerate again once we get through the election cycle.
Hopefully, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome. Well, great.
Well,
Well, Alina, this has been great speaking with you today. I appreciate you joining me on the Chemical Show.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining us today. Keep listening, keep following, keep sharing, and we will talk with you again soon.